ISKCON also was protesting, making public protest to the Bangladesh government, and how are you allowing this? Why you're not protecting the minority groups? And the government has to respond. If it's just one person, well, they're going to say, yeah, well, we'll look into it. But there are all so many people, all nations of the world, all people protesting, that has great influence, that has great effect. So anyway, the girls, they came together, and they were making their complaints about Nimon. Kanyare kohe amapuja ami devo bar ganga durgadashi mohesh kinkar. In the same way that Sri Krishna on the chariot of Arjun, he stands there and he says that Matapratram nannat kinchidasti Dhananjay. Hey Dhananjay, there's nothing superior to me within all these three worlds. Paratara, a higher truth. Nada paratram nannat kinchit. There's nothing. Kinchit ashti Dhananjay. Not even any single thing. Kinchit ashti Dhananjay. Not a single fragment of thing is parataram, a higher truth than me. What a thing to say. Only the Supreme Person. He's not even manifesting from another form of God or from an original. He is the original. The Vasudev Krishna, but he's a slight expansion from Nandadura. But it's the same person. There's no truth higher than him. It's only the rasa that changes, but there's no truth higher than that person standing on Arjuna's chariot. And he's saying it in the Aishwarjapurna. In fact, the Vibhuti Jog, the Aishwarya Vibhuti Jog, the 10th chapter, Virat Rup Jog, Vibhuti Jog, the opulence of the Supreme Vibhuti Jog, the Vaibhav, the Vibhuti, the opulent Vibhuti. So he's manifesting it in the form of Sri Krishna. Now here, the same person in the form of in a young child's form, Adikanda Kota Jay Amrit Shravan Jay Shishu Rupe, Kurera Kore Narayan. He plays in Shishurupe, in the form of a child. Amrit Shravan Jay Shishurupe Krida Kore Narayan, Supreme Lord of the Supreme Lord. He assumes the form of a child and performs these pastimes. So he's there, standing as a child. This is Bal Leela. He's not even 5 years old, and he's standing there and he replies to those girls. He replies, they're bringing all their ingredients, excuse me. They're bringing all of their ingredients for puja of the demigods. Sorry. They're bringing all the paraphernalia for worship of the demigods, the young Kumari Brahminis of Navadip Dham. As we hear, as on the banks of on the ghats of Navadip, that's where all of the social interaction of Navadip was displayed, was experienced. Navadip Shampati Keboni Vare Pari Egdonga Gate Lokalok Snanakori. Who can describe the opulence of Navadip? Navadip Shampati Keboni Vare Pari. Who can describe it? Egdonga Gate. In one bathing ghat, Egdonga Gate Lokalok Snanakori. 100,000 people were bathing. So many ghats, just imagine. It was all covered over later by Marlonga and the city of Navadip. But it was not like the city with horns, buses, and traffic jams, smoke pollution. No, it was just a network of Brahmins living on the banks of the Ganga and into the jungles and growing food and maintaining cows and living Varnashram Dharma. And even though at that time the land was subjugated by a foreign ruler, it didn't seem to disturb the Varnashram, the establishment of Varnashram Dharma. Of course, there's the incidents with the Kaji breaking the Madanga and declaring that anyone who's seen doing Shankirtan on the streets will be arrested. But these things are also Leela. So in general, Mahaprabhu was able to manifest in great freedom his pastimes in Navadip. Of course, even more so in terms of establishing his movement, we see that after going to Jagannath Puri, that after taking Shannash, and with the purpose of institutionalizing the movement, or making the movement official. He'll take sannyas, he'll travel to all the important, he goes to South India, because all the scholars are there, Venkat Bhatta, Sri Rangam, and the Tattavadis, Ramananda Roy, and then he goes to Varanasi. And he goes to Varanasi, Bhagavananda Saraswati. And in this way, he establishes the movement. He teaches Sanatana Goswami in Varanasi, Rupa Goswami in Prayag, visits all these places, inundates Prayag. Actually, we'll hear if we ever get to the actual Rupa Shikha. But as I mentioned, that we're heading towards Rupa Shikha, but we will diverge here and there. So today we're going. It's still Mahaprabhu's still on his way to Ramkelli to meet Rupa Sanatan, but this is described. So we were describing. I started with Chartan Modde Choi Bochur Gomon Gomon. Within that 24-year period, Mahaprabhu was coming and going. Gomon Gomon, Kabul Dokin, Kabul Gaur, Kabul Vrindavan. He went to South India, then he went to Bengal, and then he went to Vrindavan. So the Madhya Lila, Mahaprabhu's Gomon Gomon, sitting and coming and going. And then we were describing, we got to the Shampati, on the banks of on the Ghat. There's these childhood pastimes, Adi Kondo. So the same way that Krishna on the chariot of Arjuna, he says that Mata Paratram, there's nothing superior to me, is in the form of a young child. In the form of a young child, I'll come back to Mahaprabhu sannyas. Yeah. He took sannyas. He went to Jagannath Puri. He did the traveling, and really under the king, under the patronage and support of King Prataparudra Maharaj. We were in Puri a few weeks ago, and we're going again next week, and I'm beginning to understand, because I was able to visit Puri Dham with a Puri Bashi. And he's like, he's like on the level of a Nitya Siddha, a liberated person, because he was born in Puri, never sinned. Maybe a little something, in Puri as they eat, but maybe not. I don't know. But nothing like the things that we've done. I haven't come to, not that we're proud of these things, but so pure and such sannyasi, and so dedicated, humble and dedicated, hard work. I'm fortunate to be able to do seva with Bhakti Bija Bhagavad Swami and see how hard he works till late at night. And every night he gives lecture, an hour and a half. Hard. Sannyasi means full absorption in preaching. And just like it's following in the mood of Japataka Maharaj, it's complete absorption in preaching, and you just keep going until you drop. And Srila Japataka Swami Maharaj, he's just on spiritual energy. They work very hard. So with Bhakti, so very purified, very dear to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said to Nityananda Prabhu, Nityananda agidilo jao gaudadeshe onargo prem bhakti kodaho prakashe. Mahaprabhu was particularly interested in Gaudadesh and in the onargo prem bhakti kodaho prakash, in the distribution of love of Godhead in Bengal. He ordered Nityananda Prabhu not to come to Jagannath Puri every year, just to, because it was very important for him that Gaudadesha Analagal Prema Bhakti Kodaho Prakash. And he ordered Nityananda Prabhu to do that. So how dear is Nityananda Prabhu? How dear are the preachers of Bengal? I can understand it. Bhakti Pushnama Swami, Bhakti Vijay Bhagavat Swami Maharaj is given their lives. His Holiness Japataka Swami Maharaj, given that what he's done for Bengal. I mean, Prabhupada, he left Bengal for his disciples like Japataka Swami Maharaj. And Prabhupada, he only preached in Calcutta and Haridashpur, and that was very briefly. And Mayapur was for the world, because Mayapur Prabhupada spent, but he didn't so much preach in Calcutta and West Bengal. Not to speak of East Bengal, where about 30,000 devotees are initiated. Probably lakhs of devotees who are following and not yet initiated and identify themselves with that movement, with Prabhupada's movement. So Japataka Swami Maharaj, and what he did for East Bengal, how dear he is to Krishna, we cannot calculate, we cannot understand what he's done. It'll be historically recorded how the foreign disciples of Bhaktivedanta Swami revived Gaudiya culture, Gaudiya Vaishnavism in Bengal. Revived it in Bengal and brought it up to such a high and glorious, and preaching is so developing so rapidly. So Bhakti Pushna Maharaj, I was fortunate to be able to visit Puri with him, and he was explaining to me, he was explaining that we were discussing how because the king of Puri was an all-out devotee, and he would do anything for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That facilitated Mahaprabhu's activities and pastimes. I mean, he had complete access to Jagannath Mandir and Prashadam and Haridas Thakur, for his associates when they first arrived. Gopinath Acharya announces, go to Hoyde Vaishnava, Mahaprabhu Bhaktisha, Mahabhagavat. They're great devotees of Mahaprabhu, 200 of them. What are you going to do? Of course, let's arrange everything for them. He was so eager to attract the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, attract his attention by doing something to satisfy him. And eventually he did attract the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the king was fully supportive, and Mahaprabhu's movement could completely absorb himself in his Leela in Jagannath Puri, with association like Haridas Thakur and Ramananda Roy and Sarak Damodar, and just perform his Leela, because there was never any issue. I mean, the king and the head and the guru, he didn't have to worry about any of these things, defending the movement or anything like that. So Jagannath Puri, the king, but here the king was, and therefore, the point is that therefore so many of the original places are still there, like Gambhira and was Jagannath Temple and Haridas Thakur Samadhi, and so many places, Total Gopinath Mandir, and so many of the deities of the Goswamis are there, Jagannananda Pandit's deities. And it is amazing things to see in Jagannath Puri. I went with Bhakti Purushottam Swami this time. It was amazing. And next week we won't have class, actually, because we'll be in Jagannath Puri again with the students from Chaitanya Avatar's Prabhu's preaching. So we're going to take their association in Jagannath Puri. So Mahaprabhu, in this Madhya Leela, he goes to South India and preaches there, and then he comes back and he remains in Jagannath Puri for 2 years. 2 years. And then he attempts to go to Vrindavan. Chapter 17 of Madhya Leela Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now this is briefly described in Chaitanya Bhagavat, because the Chaitanya Bhagavat of after Mahaprabhu takes sannyas is only 10 chapters in Chaitanya Bhagavat. So some brief incidents are described in Puri. However, this particular incident of Mahaprabhu returning back to Navadip on his way to Ramkeli, which is apparently to go to Vrindavan, but actually he only goes as far as Kalanatashvara and then returns. So as we were hearing last week that after the 2 years, Ramananda Roy, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, they gave permission to Mahaprabhu. He left Jagannath Puri, and we were hearing how, those associates who felt so much pain. Gadadhar Pandit fell unconscious, and then when Ramananda Roy fell unconscious, Mahaprabhu took him on his lap. A whole crowd of people were there surrounding him, hundreds of thousands of people, and the pain that Mahaprabhu felt when he had to depart from Ramananda Roy. And then the Mahapatra arranges with the governor, the Javan king of the adjacent state, which is Bengal, was the end of Odia and then Bengal, and there's various Javan kingdoms, because later he goes to the Nawab Hussain Shah, and that's in Ramkeli Gold, which is now Malda. So this is another king. This is way down here, just on the border of Odia, but he's also a Javan king, so he's king of that area. So Bengal would have been divided into some sub-states, and the Nawab was the emperor of Bengal, and then different kings. So he's one of these kings, and he comes and he sends his representatives, and his representative becomes love of Godhead, and then the king, he becomes surrounded, purified, chanting the holy name, tears of love of Godhead. Arranges all the boats to take 10 boats of soldiers accompany Mahaprabhu. You see, it doesn't really matter in these presentations whether we're talking about today's topic, which we haven't got to yet, or we're just giving the prelude. It doesn't really matter, because just by hearing these pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the heart becomes purified, and there's Ananta Lila. and that we can hear in the mercy of Vrindavan Thakur and Sri Krishna Das Kaviraj, in this case, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami is describing us this Mahaprabhu's departure. That's described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the deliverance of that Javan king. And then last week, we reached a point where Mahaprabhu had reached Bengal and had reached to the banks of the Ganga. And then we'll hear that description as he goes through Bengal and then reaches Ramtali. Now, that's in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Now, that's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, it so happens that in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, even though the Antya Kanda is not describing as much, which is two, Madhya Kanda and Madhya Lila, Anta Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita is described in 10 chapters in Chaitanya Bhagavat, you see. So they see the emphasis on the two. Chaitanya Charitamrita, the emphasis on Mahaprabhu after sannyas, Chaitanya Bhagavat, the emphasis on Mahaprabhu before sannyas. And so really, you need both. And Sridhar Shastri Thakur obviously encouraged his preachers to preach from and read Chaitanya Bhagavat. And this main topic we're going through here of Mahaprabhu, Rup Shikha, is actually in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we've explained how, because the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Rup Shikha, Sanatana Shikha, Sarvabhaumabhattacharya, the deliverance, the Ramananda Roy Sambat, and the Prakashananda Saraswati, that's all in the Madhya Lila. And there's all of the teachings, all of the highest conclusions. And then there are in other places in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but these things are not found in Chaitanya Bhagavat. This high Vrindavan, the Braj Prema and the Radhika Bhav, all of these things, Gopi Bhav, that are described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and not described. And actually, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the devotee said that we need more elaboration on these things. And so you can see that these things, for this reason, this is not discussed in detail. In fact, Kaviraj Goswami mentions this is all described in great detail by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. So we're going to look at this description now that Vrindavan Das Thakur gives of Mahaprabhu as he comes along the banks of the Ganga and he reaches the Navadip area. Again, he's going north along the banks of the Ganga. What a way to journey to Vrindavan. All the way, the plan would be he'd go all the way along the bank of the Ganga, Varanasi and Prayag, and then what a way to travel. But that's the way Mahaprabhu wanted to go because of affection for the Ganga. Gauru deshe hoy moy dui shamar shrai janani janabi dui doyamoy. Gauru deshe hoy moy dui shamar shrai of two very important shelters in Gauda Desh. Janani, my mother, and Janobi, my Gongo. They dui doyamoy. They're both very merciful. And the relationship that Sachinandan displays, he enjoys with Magonga. Right from the very beginning of his Leela, his appearance of the devotees bathing in Ganga, and his pastimes. And as a young we're hearing, somehow I got off the point of the Adi, I'll come back to that, got off the point that Mahaprabhu was there with the Komaris. And he says to them, they're bringing the ingredients for worship. And he says to them that, Ama puja koro, ami kannare kohe, ama puja koro, ami devobar, Ganga Durga Dashimor Mahesh Kinkar Kandareko. He says to those unmarried young maidens, Amar Puja Koro, you worship me, Ami Devo Bar, I will give benediction. Ganga Durga Dashimor, Ma Ganga and Ma Durga are my maidservants. Mahesh Kinkar, and Lord Shiva, he is my servant. So in the same way that Krishna says, Mata Parata Nanna Kinchidasti Dhananjaya, here, as in the form of a young child. Shishu Bay, Kritika and Narayan, the same Lord of the Tribhuvanai, the Supreme Lord. He orders, don't worship others, don't worship me alone. But he says that in a way that they think that he should be playing. He's as a joking young child. This is the Amrit Shravan of Adi Kondo, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. So let's hear today Mahaprabhu, this description in the Chaitanya Bhagavat of Mahaprabhu coming again through Navadip. Although he doesn't come to Mayapur because he's a sannyasi, but he goes to Koladeep and Vidhanagar, and we'll hear that description. This is actually text number 270, text number 270 of the third chapter of the Adikondo, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antya Kanda, I said Antya Kanda. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antya Kanda, final, Antya Kanda, chapter 3, text number 270. Antya Kanda, chapter 3, text 270. Ganga Prati Maha Anurag Boraya Atishigna Gauda Deshe Ailo Chaliya. Ganga Prati Maha Anurag, because of Maha Anurag, strong feelings of Anurag, means attraction, Anurag, for Ganga Prati, for Ma Ganga. Oh, unfortunate, so fortunate. Sometimes I reflect, how is it that such a person from such a, well, degraded background, sinful, but everyone's sinful, but in such ignorance, so far away from understanding anything about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna consciousness, the holy name, nothing, Ma Ganga. They had no concept of any of these things. Bharatbhumi, Sadhumuni, Rishigon, Bhagavan Avatar, Vrindavan, Himalaya, nothing about these things. Muni, Rishi, Shanashi, Asram, Bharatbhumi, Ma Ganga. We knew nothing, absolutely. We're living in a complete different reality, you could say, or illusion, which we thought was reality. That's what it was like. It just complete. We never even heard the name Krishna. It was like just a sealed balloon of complete illusory ignorance. And Krishna, nothing of Krishna consciousness ever penetrated that. And then Prabhupada brought it in such a powerful way. Devotees chanting on the streets. So they were shocked. The people, I was a young boy. They thought these people were crazy. Bed sheets, the hair. I mean, it was just like so outrageous. And that's how the Krishna consciousness movement exploded, because it was just all over the news all the time. And collecting money. It's like the movement, how their preaching started. So anyway, how is it that in that reality we're a complete forgetfulness, absolutely no understanding, no concept, wouldn't even think of it in their wildest dreams that we're Nitya Krishna Das and chant holy name. And here I am every day now for almost 2 years, standing in my waist depth in Ma Ganga, in Navadip Dham, chanting Brahma Gayatri Mantra, just looking in the footsteps of the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. I stand and I look at Temple of Vedic Planetarium, chant Brahma Gayatri Mantra in Ma Ganga in Navadip Dham. I mean, such a thing, such an experience would not be bestowed upon a person even after koti janma, trillions of lives of performing tapasya and austerity. One wouldn't achieve such mercy in Navadip Dham to be able to stand in Ma Ganga, chant Brahma Gayatri Mantra at the steps of the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. How do you get that? So Ma Ganga, Mahaprabhu had such a relationship with Ma Ganga. Vancha kalpataru Shri Gaura Sundara Janabir Vancha Punna Kori Nirantor. Vancha kalpataru, that desire fulfilling Shri Gaura Sundara. Janabir Vancha, the desires of Ma Ganga, Punna Kori, he fulfills Nirantor, incessantly. So this is another example of Gaura Sundara, Vancha kalpataru, the desire fulfilling Gaura Sundara. Fulfills the desires of Ma Ganga. He's returning to Bengal to associate with her and travel along the banks of Ma Ganga to Vrindavan. Sarvabhaume Prakta Bhajaspati Nam Shanto Danto Dharmishil Mahabhagyavan Sarvabhauma Bhrakta Bidda Bhajaspati Nam. Bidda Bhajaspati Sarvabhauma Bhrakta. Sometimes he is disciple, son. Vrindavana Thakur says clearly Bhrakta. Sarvabhauma Bhrakta. Sarvabhauma Bhrakta. Yeah, Bhrakta. Sarvabhauma Bhrakta. Bidda Bhajaspati. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's brother. Shanto Danto. He is very peaceful and forgiving. Danto and Dharmishil, pious. Mahabhagavan, and greatly fortunate, because Mahaprabhu just happened to arrive at his house as he was journeying through Navadip. So this is the other side from Mayapur. Mahaprabhu is coming along the banks of the Ganga, but he won't cross over. He goes to Shantipur. He goes to, before this, he visits Shantipur. Briefly, and again, he visits Shantipur. So Shantipur on that side of the Ganga. Mayapur on this side, he doesn't cross the Ganga. He doesn't visit Mayapur. Because it's not appropriate for a sannyasi to return to his village. So in that way, Vidya Vachashpati is is Mahabhagyavan extremely fortunate because Mahaprabhu happened to go to his house as he was coming through Gaudadesh to go to Vrindavan, but only as in this case as far as Karnataka. So we visit that Vidyanagar. We visit that Vidyavachashpati residence that's in Vidyanagar, and on Parikrama we go to that place. So it's very special what happened at that place, and that's why it's special for us because we can visit this place. And perhaps if you come sometime, I think we're going to be together in Jagannath Puri. That'll be nice in December. I'll take you to some of these places that you've never been before that we went to with Dr. Pushtam Swami Maharaj. So then, anyway, sometime if you come to Mayapur, you can also go to this place. It's worth going there and spend the whole morning there, take prasadam, come back, or spend the early, or used to take lunch there. Nice place there, nice temple. Probably the original deity still in there. I remember that, but anyway, definitely we can visit this place. So it's Vidyavachashpati is the brother of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So he's a Mahabhagyavan. He's so fortunate, so obviously he's a special person. Who is that Vidyavachashpati? We hear him here as a teacher of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, the guru. I think they say mantra guru, actually mantra, Diksha gave mantra. That is a special person. Obviously, Mahaprabhu is going to come and stay in his home. Vaikuntha Nayak Grihe Otiti Baya Porilen Vachashpati Dandavat Hoya. So Vaikuntha Nayak Grihe Otiti Baya, getting as a guest, unscheduled, Otiti, unscheduled, just he appears, the Supreme Lord, Vaikuntha Nayak Grihe. So it appears that he knew who he was, because he says Vaikuntha Nayak, it's described that he didn't just get a sannyasi, or even they may have known from Navadip Leela, but Vaikuntha Nayak, they know he's Vaikuntha Nayak. And this particular chapter of Chaitanya Bhagavat also is full of Aishwarya Punna. These devotees, as they're all coming, we'll hear them traveling, we'll hear them crossing the river to get to Vidyanagar to see Mahaprabhu at the house of Vidyavachashpati. They're all in the consciousness that this is the Supreme Lord and chanting the holy name. Or if not that, at least Sanyasya Chodamani, the jewel of all the sannyasis, they have such great respect and love for him. So here, Vaikuntha Nayak, he's Polilen Vachashpati Dandavat Hoya, he fell down. The word came, he fell down. Dandavat. Polilen Dandavat Hoya. But then, he didn't know what to do. You can relate to this sometimes in the association of great devotees. Your mind just becomes, you black out. you black out. My friend Suresha Prabhu, Prabhupada's disciple, he describes his initiation. And Prabhupada standing says, what are the principles? And he couldn't respond. Just being in front of Prabhupada, he couldn't speak. And then Prabhupada shook the beads in front of his face and said, take the beads. Shook the beads. Shook the beads in front of his, a special initiation. So that Brahman, he didn't know what to do. Having the Lord in his home, he didn't know what to do. And then how the Lord responds to that. Prabhu tahare korilen alingon Prabhu bole shunu kichu amar bachon. Wow. That's why we here reading, we're blessed to be able to read the Bangla and share with you, because the words describe, in English you can't describe that event so sweetly. Prabhu tare korilen alingam. Prabhu also Prabhu responded in a deep way. Prabhu tare kore alingam. He embraced him. Alingam. Prabhu bole shuno kichu amar bachon. Shuno kichu amar bachon. Listen a little. Shuno kichu amar bachon, to my words. I mean, how sweet is that? Prabhu bole shuno kichu amar bachon. By hearing it, you can get you can feel what the person, what his qualities are like, what his nature is like, by hearing the way he spoke. So how do we know it's the way he spoke? Well, Vrindavan Das Thakur, he says that that Monadi Shunu by Sri Chaitanya Kotar, Bhakti Shange J. Lila Koilo Jota Jota, because the J. Lila Koilo, the pastimes that he performed, Bhakti Shange, with his devotees, Jota Jota, just the way they happened. He's describing, therefore, Monadi Shunu by, listen with attention, Sri Chaitanya Kotar. So he did that. He responded in that way, according to Vrindavandas Thakur, who's saying this, because Lord Nityananda is dictating him. So anyway, this is, we get the jewel. Through the lips of Vrindavandas Thakur, you get the full Chittamor, Hoye Che, Mathura Jaite, Koto Din Gangashnan, Korimo E Tate. Again, it's like a whole paragraph. It would take a whole paragraph to explain that in English. Chittamor Hoye Che Jaite, Mathura Jaite. Chittamor Hoye Che, Mathura Jaite. Mathura Jaite, to go to Vrindavan. Mathura. Mathura Jaite, when he said Mathura, he means Mathura Mondo. Mathura Jaite. Why he says Mathura? Because it's so sweet. Chitta more hoeche Mathura Jaite. I have a desire, a chitta. Chitta more hoeche. I had an urge, I had a desire. I developed a desire. Chitta more hoeche. I developed a desire. And amazing how the Lord develops desires and manifest. I mean, he's Purnam, so they're already there. Everything's there, but it seems like he wasn't thinking of it. He didn't desire it before, but then he desires. Like, what was that? That at home, Goshti, Goshti Maje, Kriha Teke, Sharva Shashta, Shamaha Bujila. He understood everything at home anyway, but Goshti Maje. Prabhu Porite Hoilo Chitto. He had a desire to study with others. Prabhu Poile Hoilo Chitto. Prabhu Goshti Mache Porite Hoilo Chitto. Again, Hoilo Chitto. Here it says Chitta more Hoeche. Again, I got a desire. So that's amazing that the Lord desires appear in the heart of the Lord that apparently weren't there before. So it's not that it's all just predestined and everything's on the script. Desires weren't there, and then desires appear. He gets the desire to go to Vrindavan. Kotodin Ganga Shnan Korimo E Tate. And then I would like to stay here for a few days and bathe in the Ganga. Of course, already Mahaprabhu has been associating with Ma Ganga all the way since he first entered Bengal and, well, got to Panihati. And started traveling along the banks of the Ganga, drinking Ganga water, bathing in Ganga, the breezes of the Ganga, residing on the bank of the Ganga, everything. So, but now he wants to stay a few days. So that's interesting. Not described any more verses about that, and not purported by Srinatha Shastri Thakur, but he desires to remain a few days in Vidyanagar, near Navadip. And we'll see there's a reason, but anyway, that facilitates all the devotees from Navadip and the devotees and others, everybody, to be able to come and take his darshan. So whether that's the reason, but anyway, here he says he wants to bathe for a few days in Ganga. Okay, he has that desire. Vipra bole bagga shab bangshar amar jotai choron duli ailo tomar jotai, because we choron duli ailo has come, the lotus feet have appeared. Bagga shab amar bangshar amar, so my whole family has become bagga shab amar. That's the way to respond if a great Vaishnav comes to your home. Vipra bole Bagga Shab Amar, Bangsha Amar, Bagga Shab Bangsha Amar. My whole dynasty has become fortunate. Chata Charan Duli Ailo Tamar, because you've come to my home. This is a nice verse to memorize that. Bagga Shab Amar, Bagga Shab Bangsha Amar, Chata Charan Duli Ailo Tamar. And then he explains that everything is, of course, I'll give you a place to stay, or my house, everything is mine. Everything I have is yours. So Mahaprabhu, he says, give me a private room. Mahaprabhu says, give me a private room and a quiet room. And And then Vidya Bhattacharya says, no one will know that you're here. No one, I won't tell anyone, no one will know that you're here. So you can quietly go and take snan for snan. So yes, that's part of the Lord's desire, that he wants to be able to be alone for a few days. Usually there's hundreds of thousands of people journeying with him. So anyway, Shujir Udoy ki kokon gopya hoy. Sharvalok Shunilek Prabhu Bijoy. Sarvalok Shunilek, but even though he didn't broadcast it, Surja Udoy ki kokon gopya hoy. Who can keep confidential the rising of the sun? I mean, it just becomes known to everybody. So Sarvalok Shunilek Prabhu Bijoy, that all the people heard about the Prabhu's coming, about the Lord's arrival. Navadev Adi Sharva Dike Hoilo Dhoni Bachashpati Ghore Oilo Nyash Chaudamoni. Navadev Adi, beginning with Navadev. From Navadev, the word spread everywhere. Sharva Dike in all directions. Hoilo Dhoni, that sound went. Bachashpati Ghore Oilo Nyash Chaudamani. Vachashpati Gore, in the house of Vidya Vachashpati, Oilo Nyasha Chodamani, the shining jewel of the sannyasis. Nyash Chodamani, Chodamani, Chudamani, 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 Nyash Chudamani, the shining jewel of the sannyasis. Nyash Chudamani. Isn't it worth taking the effort to memorize all of these? No one. So it should be read, all this should be heard constantly in Navadev. And then Sri Chaitanya Bhagavan. Navadev Ari Sharva Dike Hoilo Dhani Bachashpati Gore Oilo Nyash Choramoni. The shining jewel of the sannyasis has come to the house of Vachaspati. This news of this spread from Navadev in all directions. Shunya Loke Hoilo Chitte Ullash Shorire Jeno Hoilo Boikuntabash Shunya, hearing this, Loke Hoilo Chitta Ullash, they got great Chitte Ullash, great joy in the heart. Shorir Jeno Hoilo Boikuntabash, and they felt that they were living in Boikunta. Anande Shakalo Bole Hori Hori Stri Putra Deho Geho Shakal Pashari. Anande Shakalo Bole Hori Hori. In great bliss, all of these people, when they heard that Nyasha Chodamani, the shining jewel of the sannyasis, had come to Vachashpati Gore, when they heard that, they all experienced such joy in the heart, and in great bliss, they were chanting Hari Hari and Sri Putra Deho Geho Shakal Pashadi. They forgot in that state of chanting Hari Hari, feeling great joy in their heart that Nyash Chodamani had come to Vachashpati house, that they forgot Sri Putra Deho Geho. They forgot their body, they forgot their home, they forgot their sons, they forgot their wife. Sri Putra Deho Geho Shakal Pashali, they forgot all of those things. This is the description of Srila Vrindavan Thakur. This is very poetic. He's not just giving a report, he's describing the effect that it had on everybody, on others. He's showing how extraordinary it is by describing the effect it had on these people, that they Ananda Shakalo Boli Hari Hari, they in great bliss, they were chanting the Hari Hari, Sri Putra Deho Geho Shakal Pashari, and they forgot their wife, their sons, their bodies, and their homes. And then they're all discussing, let's go. We just cross the Ganga, let's go and see him. Ananta Olbuddha Log Bole Hari Hari Chole Len Deki Bade Gauranga Sri Hari Chole Len, they went. Ananta Olbuddha Log, it cannot be described. unlimited millions. Ananta or Buddha Boli Hari Hari, all chanting the name Hari Hari. Choli Len, Deki Bade, Gaudanga Sri Hari. They all went to see Gaudanga Sri Hari. Shuno Shuno, Arer Bahai, Chaitanya Akyan, Jai Rupe, Koyela Prabhu, Sharba, Jib Tran, Shabra Jiba Tran, yeah. So that again, Shuno Shuno, Arer Bahai, Chaitanya Akyan, Jai Rupe, Koyela Prabhu, Sharba, Jiba Tran. Listen, Shuno Shuno, Arer Bahai brothers, listen. Chaitanya Akam, descriptions of Lord Chaitanya, Jai Rupe, in that form, Korila, he did the Prabhu Sharva Jibotrana, he delivered all the people. Just listen, brothers, the descriptions of Lord Chaitanya. And in this form, as he delivers all the people, Sharva Jibotrana, he delivers everybody. Everybody. And that's the mood of this Vidyanagara visit, that he delivers everybody and the atheists and even the offenders. We'll discuss, we won't discuss it all this week. We'll discuss it more next time after we come back from Puri. So going there, you can imagine that the millions and millions were chanting Hari Hari and they're all just charging through the jungle because the paths were just completely packed. But people are Hari Hari and they're all going to see, that's the description. So undeterred by the thorny bushes and they woody and wild areas, they just stampeded and crushed and made makeshift pathways. Shob dike log, shob hari hari jai, shob dike log, shob hari hari. Hari Boli Jai, Shob Dike Lok, Hari Boli Jai, in all directions, chanting the names of Hari, they're going. Heno Ranga Kori Prabhu Sri Gaudangarai. In this way, Heno Ranga Kori, he enjoys pastimes. Heno Ranga Kori Prabhu Sri Gaudangarai. This is the way he enjoys his pastimes. That in all directions, the people were chanting Hari Hari, trampling through the jungle to see him. And being there is part of his pastime, to make them do that. And they're all, now it's described how they were all thinking about, how they were thinking as they were going. How does Vrindavandas Thakur know this? He's describing. If I could just see him once with these eyes, one person said. Then one person said that I'll fall at his feet and I'll ask for all my material attachment to be severed. Another person says that, look, if I just see him with my eyes, that's it. I won't ask for anything. I just want to see him. Another person says, I used to criticize him. I was hopelessly ignorant. So I'll fall at his feet and I'll beg forgiveness for my offenses. A fatherly man said, my son is a compulsive gambler. So I'll pray to the Lord to make him stop. That's interesting. It's interesting. But it seems accessible. It seems okay. That's the whole point, that he's going to deliver everybody. He'll deliver the son, he'll deliver everybody. That's the mood that he's in. Even though he's just asking for this which is an impediment, but it's kind of like an immediate thing. Maybe he's just obsessed with it. But really, if he gets Krishna consciousness, then he'll give up gambling anyway, but he doesn't know that. But it's described that even this person can get relief. His son's a compulsive gambler. And he approached it. He's going to see the Lord to ask him to help him stop. So he'll also see the Lord. He'll also get delivered because he said Savalok. Tran Kore, he says that because the verse says that. Jai Rupe, because Shuno Oreva Chaitanya Akam, descriptions of Jai Rupe Korila Prabhu Sharva Jivatran, how he delivers everybody. Sharva Jivatran. So the different types of people that are going to be delivered, they're all described here. Someone says, I want freedom from material attachment. Someone says, I just want to see him with my eyes. Someone says, I want forgiveness of offenses. Someone says, I want my son to get free from his addiction to gambling. And someone else says that, may I always remain fixed at his lotus feet with my body, mind, and words and never leave that shelter. So they're all coming and they're all going to be delivered. They're the different people. Sava Lokutran, yeah, because in this form, Jai Rupe Korila Prabhu Sarva Jivatran. He's going to deliver them. So they all got to the boats, and then there wasn't enough boats, and they're all packing into the boats, and boats are splitting and sinking. And people to pay the boatmen, other boats were coming. That to pay them, they were giving them their clothes. And then other people just forget the boats. They just got water pots, these clay pots, upturned clay pots, and wrapped them around there with some gumshoe, wrapped them around the chest and started floating across. And others tied together the trees of banana trees. I've seen that here. This is a big flood. We haven't had a flood for years in Manipur, but last time I was there in the flood. And the very next morning, the water comes up. You hear it all night, pouring in the morning. You see it's like, wow, it's like in the middle of the ocean, water everywhere. And then that makes one the local people, local farmer, and he's just cruising on two banana trees cut, and he's just cruising just like it has since he's a little kid. I thought, wow. For us, it'd be such a thing. I get a boat, take hours, have to rent it and everything, and he just ties together the banana trees and he's cruising around. So they had the clay pots like that, and they had the bananas trees tied together, and they're crossing the Ganga, and others just swam across. And all the time that chanting of the holy name is going on. Chatur dike sharvalok kore hori doni brahmanda bhedaye jay heno motu shuni. The sound that pierced the universe, the sound of them chanting. So then, it's nice to scribes coming out now. They meet Vachaspati, and they ask him to see the Lord. And so there's more we'll discuss next time we meet. But I think we'll give some time for questions. Anamate Ganga Bara Hoy Sharvijan Shabai Doren Vachaspati Charan. So in this way, they all cross the Ganga. And Shabai, Doren, Bachashpati, Charan, the hill fell down and clasped. How is it possible? 10 millions of people, but anyway, they all fell down and clasped. Doren, Shabai, Doren, they all clasped, they all held. They all fell down at his feet. Shabai, Doren, Bachashpati, Charan, they all fell down at the Lord's feet. And what happened after that, we'll discuss subsequently. So, there are any questions? Chat, something in the chat there. Well, I found you too. Yeah. Any question? Okay. Thank you very much. So as I mentioned, next week we'll be in Jagannath. So we won't have class this time, but the following week we'll carry on and describe what happened when they all reached the home of Vachaspati in Vidyanagara to see the Lord. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.